Hi everyone, I'm Julia and I'm a physical therapist. I'm here today to go through some rehab progressions for an acute hamstring strain. So if you've just strained your hamstring acutely, oftentimes one of the things that people really want to do is just really stretch out the hamstring, but my first thing is try and resist that urge, please. Because generally when you strain your hamstring, either during accelerating or sprinting or something like that, you've probably overstrained the muscles by overtaxing them, so they've already been a little bit overstretched. So if you're just sitting here doing like a long hamstring stretch or doing something like this, you're probably actually stretching some fibers that have already been a little bit overstretched and become strained. So try and avoid that. If you really want to stretch it and you're like, oh, this is getting really locked up, one stretch that you can do is going to be an active 90-90 hamstring stretch. So you're going to lay on your back, one leg is flat, and then the leg that you want to stretch, you're going to hold behind your knee so your thigh is about vertical. And then keeping your foot relaxed, you're gently going to straighten and bend it. And so you can get a little stretch here, and I usually have people do this about maybe 10 to 15, even 20 times if it's really locked up. And then you might notice initially you're like, oh, I kind of feel it. And then over time as it loosens up and eases out, you'll get a little bit straighter. So this would be the active hamstring stretch you could use to loosen up your hamstring before you're going out for activity. Like a walk or something, or if you're going to do one of these exercise progressions. So the next thing I like to do is this first circuit is going to be for early stage of hamstring rehab. So let the hamstring calm down for a day or so, and then it'll probably be ready for a little bit of load. So the first thing I like to do is we're going to come back to the ground. We're going to do 3 exercises here. The first one is going to be an isometric hamstring bridge. So you're going to lay on your back, walk your feet a little bit away from your body, farther than a standard bridge, dig your heels into the ground, and just lift up and hold. So this is an isometric, which means the muscle is contracting but not lengthening or shortening. And this is really helpful. This can have an analgesic effect or a pain relieving effect temporarily, so it can allow you to do some other exercises. Throughout this rehab process, nothing should be really painful in the hamstring or in the place where you're having some symptoms. You might feel it a little, but you shouldn't feel like any sharp pain and nothing that really lingers. And so here, my first exercise I usually have people do is going to be a double leg isometric hamstring bridge. And then once you've held that for about 30 to 45 seconds, you can come on up and then do some squats. Usually this is a little bit more of a quad dominant exercise, so not too heavy on the hamstring. If you need to limit the range initially to avoid feeling some sharp hamstring pains there, totally fine. But as you can, get a little deeper into the squat here. And then the third exercise I'll have people do in the early stage of hamstring rehab is back down to the ground. It's going to be a glute bridge. So here you're going to have your feet a little closer to your butt, dig through the heels. You can even lift the toes off the ground if you want to, and then gently pull the abs in, and you're just going to lift up and down. And this is, like the name suggests, mostly focused on the glutes. You get a little bit of hamstring activation, but again, you shouldn't really feel too many symptoms. And so also during the early stage, you should be able to walk without pain, and hopefully move through your daily activities without flaring up that hamstring. So that's the early stage. The little circuit that I'll do, that I usually recommend, is maybe if you want to warm up with 1 round of those active hamstring stretches, that's fine. The one laying on your back, that 90-90 dynamic stretch. And then I'll do about 3 rounds of 30 to 45 second hamstring bridge hold, and then maybe 10 to 15 squats. You could add weight to that if you want to, and then about 10 to 15 glute bridges, and do that circuit about 3 times here. So then we're going to move on to some mid-stage loading. So one thing to know about the hamstring and a hamstring strain is your hamstring is a muscle, and muscles respond really well to load. So we are going to load your hamstring. The goal is going to be to work the hamstring a little bit, create a little bit of muscle damage, and then allow it some recovery days to build back up. So very similar to just regular strength training. We're just trying to load up that hamstring and make it stronger. That does mean that you don't want to do these hamstring circuits every single day. You probably want to do it one day, give it at least a day to recover, because you're going to be creating some little bits of muscle micro damage that you want to heal, and then coming back to it the day after. So usually I recommend doing hamstring strength circuits like this about 2 to 3 times per week, or maybe every other day. So our first mid-stage hamstring loading progression is going to consist of 5 exercises. It's going to be an RDL, a heel elevated bridge, a split squat, a single leg RDL, and then a glute bridge walkout. So we're going to go through the first one, which is an RDL. Usually I have people start unweighted, but then eventually, or during this stage, we like to add weights. So the first one is just going to be a 2-2 tempo. So 2 counts down, 2 counts up, emphasizing the hip hinge here. And I usually go for about 8 repetitions. And again, we're just going smooth down, smooth up. So that's the double leg RDL. And I usually do about 3 rounds. And so I would probably add weight. At least maybe the first round is going to be body weight, and then the second and third round is probably trying to add weight here. The second exercise is going to be a heel elevated hamstring bridge. So you're going to put your feet up on box, chair, couch, anything, with your knees bent. And then you're just going to raise the hips up and down off the ground. You should feel this a little more in the muscle belly of the hamstring. If you strained kind of more the middle muscle belly of your hamstring, I'd probably keep your knees a little more bent. If it's up a little higher near the sit bone, then you might want to keep your knees a little bit straighter. So still working on the hamstring, but it might target a little bit higher up towards that proximal hamstring here, okay? But those are your options. You can also mix it up throughout the rounds. That is your double leg hamstring, or double leg heel elevated bridge. The third exercise is going to be a split squat. And all these we're going to do, all these split stance or single leg exercises we're going to do on both legs. So 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You're going to go straight down, straight up. This also, I start with a 2-2 tempo. So 2 counts down, 2 counts up. The goal is to get both knees to 90. And then here we are going to train that proximal hamstring a little bit more. So that is your split squat. And then again, I would do that on both legs. I usually do about 8 of this 2-2 tempo here. And then for the double leg hamstring bridges, probably do about like 10 to 15 reps of those. So 8 split squats. Then our fourth exercise is going to be a single leg RDL. If you need to hold on to onto something for balance, you can, because I'd rather you not be like flailing around. But you're going to stand on one leg and then hinge at the hip here. So 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up. So that same 2-2 tempo for these single leg RDLs. And again, I usually do about 8 each leg, but you're going to do both legs. So 2 counts down, 2 counts up. And this is something that ideally throughout this mid-stage process here, you would add weights to. So it's a single leg RDL. The fifth exercise in this circuit is going to be a glute bridge walkout. So we're coming back down to the ground. You're going to lift up in a glute bridge, walk your feet out. Initially, it might not be too far, and then walk your feet back in. And then as you get more advanced and more comfortable, then you can walk your legs out basically almost all the way to straight. And here I usually do about maybe 5 or 6 walkouts. So that is my mid-stage part 1 circuit. So again, it's those 5 exercises. I usually aim for about 3 rounds. It's going to be 2-2 RDLs, usually about 8. Double leg heel elevated bridges, about 10 to 15. Split squats, 2-2 tempo, 8 each leg. Single leg RDLs, 2-2 tempo, 8 each leg. And then glute bridge walkouts at the end, usually about 5 or 6 times, and 3 rounds of that. So then we're going to go through an upgrade for our mid-stage hamstring rehab here. So I usually do about 3 rounds, and so for this mid-stage or like mid-stage part 2, it's going to be the same 5 exercises, but we're going to start adding different tempos, and we're also going to add weight for this one. So the first exercise is the same. It's going to be that RDL. So maybe for the first of those 3 rounds, I would do that 2-2 tempo. But then for the second round, I'm going to change to a 3-1. So it's going to be 3, 2, 1, 1. So it's a slow eccentric, 3 counts down, quick concentric, 1 count up tempo. So this is your 3-1 tempo, double leg RDL. And then your foot elevated bridges, the way we're going to progress that is we're just going to go to a single leg. And I usually do both legs still, but you could do a few extra reps on the injured leg that you're really trying to target here. So your double leg heel elevated bridge, that's your regular. Maybe for the first round I would do double leg, but then for rounds 2 and 3, you're gonna lift one foot up in the air and then dig that heel into your bench or box or whatever you got your foot on. And you're just gonna do a single leg heel elevated bridge. And again, you can do that both sides, probably about 10 to 15 each side. So then the third one, the split squat, we're also going to upgrade to that 3-1 tempo, and ideally by this time you're also holding weights. So same thing, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You're going to go 3, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 1. And so this, again, is really working on that acceleration portion. So when you're really leaning forward and accelerating, driving those first few steps, you're trying to prepare the glutes and the hamstring for that type of force here. And then the fourth exercise, the single leg RDL, same thing. Hopefully you've added weight at this point, but also we're going to do that 3-1 tempo. So you're going to go 3, 2, 1, 1. So slow on the way down, quick on the way up. And again, if you do need something for balance, instead of flailing, I'd rather you hold. Usually I hold with the same hand as the standing leg because you want to hold the weight in your off hand, the opposite arm from your standing leg. So 3, 2, 1, 1. And then the glute bridge walkout, that is going to stay the same. So you just lay on your back, do your little glute bridge walkouts. So again, for those 3 rounds, I would do the first round of the 2-2 tempo RDL split squat single leg RDL. And then for rounds 2 and 3, I would probably switch that to a 3-1 tempo. So we're working on producing a quick force in that hamstring here. Okay? So now we're going to move on to our mid-stage part 3. Yes, there are 3 parts to this. In this stage of, in this mid-stage of rehab, this is where you should probably be able to start actually running or jogging, doing an easy run. So in the early stage, walking should be pretty much pain-free. Now you can go out for a little bit of jog. It should be a slow pace. Again, it should not be painful. Use your symptoms as a guide. You might feel it a little bit in the area of your hamstring, but you shouldn't have lasting symptoms. You shouldn't wake up the next morning and be like, oh, that's way worse. That's a sign that you're overdoing it. If your symptoms are mild and then they pretty much go away after you're done with the exercise, it's okay. If you're having sharp symptoms, sharp pain, and then lasting several hours or especially overnight into the next day, that's a sign you probably need to back down a little bit on the intensity. So during this mid-stage, this is where you can start doing some short runs. I go really easy pace, and then maybe like a half mile to 2 miles, depending on how much mileage you were doing before the injury. It should feel like an easy workout to you. It shouldn't be really pushing your boundaries here. So we're gonna get into our mid-stage part 3. This is actually where we're gonna add some jumps. So the basic exercises are gonna stay the same. We still have those 5 strength exercises. The RDLs, heel elevated bridges, at this point it'll be single leg, split squats, single leg RDLs, and the glute bridge walkouts. But here, we're gonna go for, again, if it's those 3 rounds, maybe now you start the first round as that 3-1 tempo, and now we're gonna add a 1-3 tempo. So just as a reminder, the 3-1 tempo is 3, 2, 1, 1. So slow down, fast up. And so that'll be your first set. Then say you're onto your second round of your hamstring circuit here. We're gonna add that 1-3 tempo. So you're gonna go 1, 3, 2, 1. So quick on the way down. So your hamstring is having to catch you on the way down. And again, hopefully by this point you will be using weights. But you're gonna go quick on the way down, slow on the way up. The single leg hamstring elevated bridge is going to stay the same. And then the split squat, we're gonna do that same 1-3 tempo. So you're gonna go quick on the way down, slow on the way up. So it's 1, 3, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1. And again, this ideally will be on both legs. And then at this point in the workout, this is where I like to add some jumps. So you've warmed up both legs, you've warmed up a little bit single leg on the bridges. So now we're gonna add some jumps. The first jumps I typically add are gonna be a squat jump and a skater. So the squat jump is just 2-foot takeoff, 2-foot landing, jumping in a squat. And again, you're not going super deep into the squat. It's about a half squat. So shouldn't be super extreme loading on the hamstring. And that should have no pain. The second one is going to be skater. So you're going to jump from one foot to the next. So working on a little bit of side to side motion here, working towards some of that change of direction. And again, because your knee, you're landing in a soft knee position, but it's not, your foot's not getting super stretched out in front of you. It shouldn't be a ton of load on the hamstring here. Okay, so usually I'll add those into the middle. So for your mid-stage part 3, it would look like RDLs, 3-1, then progressing to 1-3 tempo, single leg heel elevated bridges, split squats, 3-1, progressing to 1-3 tempo. And then I usually do about 8 to 10 squat jumps, and then maybe 12 to 20 skaters. And then we're gonna go back to the single leg RDLs. So this one, again, we're gonna progress to that 1-3 tempo. So you're gonna go down for 1, 3, 2, 1, up. So quick catch on the way down, 3, 2, 1, up. And this is where it often gets hard to balance, so I would like you to hold on to something instead of flailing. So you really use your muscles to catch the weight at the bottom instead of just really struggling for balance here. Okay, and then the last one, the glute bridge walkout. This is where we can actually change it to something different. So we're gonna add a hamstring tantrum. So this is another way to quickly load the hamstring, and there are different speeds we can do it. So you're gonna lay on your back, you're gonna come with your feet up, elevate on the box, and here you can either march slowly, and so here your hamstring is gonna have to catch, 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 or you can also do it, you can work your way up to a faster speed, so you're basically doing a little bit of a run, and then as we get more towards the advanced phase, you can actually back this up a little bit, lift your hips up, and try and do a hamstring tantrum like that. This is a pretty hard exercise, and so usually I do it for, if you're doing the really fast type, it's going to be like 5 to 10 seconds, not very long. If you're doing kind of the slow marches, I might do like 10 to 12 marches total, so like 5 or 6 each leg. But that is going to be one progression you can do instead of the glute bridge walkout. And so again, at this time, at the end of your mid stage, you should be jogging, maybe even running a little bit faster. And so then we're going to enter our late stage exercises. Okay, so now we've reached the late stage exercises here. So at this point, we're going to switch out that bridge for a Nordic hamstring curl. So the other exercises are going to stay basically the same. It's going to be RDLs. Again, if you're doing 3 rounds, maybe you do 1 or 2 sets, 3-1 tempo, and then the second and third sets, when we reach the third set, 1-3 tempo. And then we're going to do Nordic hamstring curls here, which you got to hook your feet under something heavy. I have my dumbbell rack here, and then I just use some padding for my knees because it's more comfortable. But the goal is going to be to lower yourself to the ground, keeping a nice straight body. And we're going to try and take somewhere between 3 and 6 seconds to lower down, and then you can push yourself back up with your hands. So here, really try and keep everything nice and straight. And then the most important part is the hardest part, is towards the bottom of the Nordic. And so we're really trying to aim to where you can control yourself basically all the way to the ground. So that's the Nordic hamstring curl. That's what I usually replace the hamstring bridge with. And then you're still going to do your 3-1 and 1-3 weighted split squats. So slow on the way down, quick on the way up for the first round, and then maybe second and third rounds, you're doing that quick catch and then slow on the way up. Single leg RDLs, same thing. You're still doing the 3, 2, 1, 1 tempo for the first round, maybe the second round too, and then the quick down, 3, 2, 1 for the second and third rounds. And then you can also keep the hamstring tantrums instead of the glute bridge walkout. But then the other things we're going to add here are different jumps. So instead of the skaters and the squat jumps, you can do different jumps that are more hamstring intensive. One is a broad jump. So here, swing arms forward. Again, you're trying to jump forward as far as you can, sticking the landing, so that requires a little bit more hamstring power. The second jump that I'll switch to is going to be a lunge jump. So now you're just switching your legs back and forth. And again, if you're getting to about 90 degrees in both knees, that's going to be a little more load on the hamstring. And the third hamstring jump that I like to do is, I call it a single leg RDL knee drive jump. So it's a long name, but it basically is what it sounds like. So you're going to be in this single leg RDL. You use that knee drive to jump. So here you're both going down and going up quickly in that single leg RDL position. So you're really loading that hamstring through its full length in a quick way. And so that's typically what I would trade out in the late stage. So my late stage circuit might look something like double leg RDLs, 3-1 tempo. Nordics, I usually do about 3 to 6 of those. So it's a very difficult exercise, so it's not a lot of reps. And then I'll do the split squats, 3-1 tempo, and then I'll do the broad jumps, the lunge jumps, and the single leg RDL jumps. And then I would come back to the single leg RDLs, 3-1 tempo, and the hamstring tantrums, maybe 5 to 10 seconds of those really fast ones, and then go through the whole circuit again. And on the second round, I might switch everything to a 1-3 tempo. So, and during this stage, this is when you should start doing some interval running. So instead of just steady state jogging, you might go to the track and do intervals where you go like maybe 1 lap easy, 1 lap a little faster, and then you make those intervals shorter and faster. So maybe you're doing like 100s of a stronger run, and then walking the curves, walking or doing easy jogging the curves, and then eventually this should progress towards full sprinting. So it is important that throughout this hamstring progression, you are walking and then jogging and then running faster and then progressing to a sprint. Running and sprinting is part of the hamstring progression. So hopefully this is helpful. These were just kind of 3 stages that I use in the gym for hamstring rehab, with a little bit of guidelines about where to be progressing with your running. So hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.